in Humanities and Social Science, held by Faculty of Social and Political Science and also Faculty of Economic and Business, University of Muhammadiyah, Malang. Before we start today's agenda, we would like to present to you traditional dance performance from the students of UMM. Please give a round of applause to Home Pimpa community with the performance welcoming culture at traditional dance. Sekali lagi marilah kita berikan tepuk tangan yang meriah untuk Home Pimpa dengan penampilan tari tradisional.
Kang nomor siji ben Andoh besar kawung urak termeno angkat campur tumel Kang nomor loro pengen telu ndase pundak kenyang bokong itu angkat campur sekarang tumel
Beda
kula nyepak kodon angket sempur timur nomor 4 mulai yang kandangnya dek angkat sempur sekali semula
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The honorable keynote speakers of today's agenda, Mr. Ari Sujianto, M.Sc, Head of the Environmental and Forestry Instrument Standardization Agency, Professor Syamsul Arifin, Vice Rector of University of Muhammadiyah, Malang, Dr. Ida Zura, Dean of Faculty of Economic and Business, University of Muhammadiyah, Malang, and also Professor Muslimin Mahmud, Dean of Faculty of Social and Political Science, University of Muhammadiyah, Malang. Our beloved speakers, Dr. Sulistyaningsih, M.Sc, Dr. Joel Andoh, Mr. Alam Surya Putra, Dr. Nik Hazimah, and also Mr. Djoko Sigit, Ph.D, and all of the participants and audiences. First of all, we would like to say welcome to you all to this very special occasion, the second International Conference on Humanities and Social Science by the theme Environmental Issues and Social Inclusion in Sustainable Era. Before we go, ladies and gentlemen, let's listen carefully to reciting Holy Quran. Mr. Fikri Robuna, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A'udzu billahi minasy syaithanir rajim.
إذا قيل لكم تفسحوا في المجالس فافسحوا يفسح الله لكم وإذا قيل انشزوا فانشزوا يرفع الله يرفع الله الذين آمنوا منكم والذين أوتوا العلم درجات والله بما تعملون خبير والله بما تعملون خبير صدق الله العظيم.
السلام عليكم.
Thank you, Mr. Fikri Rabbuna. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now we would like to ask you to stand up and sing Indonesia Raya and Muhammadiyah anthem together. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand up. Indonesia Raya.
Indonesia
have a seat. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's listen carefully to the welcoming speech from Vice Rector of Academic Affairs, University of Muhammadiyah Malang, Professor Syamsul Arifin. We invite you to give the speech and open this conference.
Yes, good. Thank you, Mbak Ocha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Innal hamdalillah la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu la nabiyya ba'dah. Rabbi israh li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amin. Amma ba'du. To the Honorable Professor Siti Nurbaya, the Minister of Environment and Forestry of Republic of Indonesia. Inshallah, Professor Nurbaya will provide his speech directly, according, represent with her assistant. Okay. Distinguished speakers, Andoh from Ghana, and Dr. Nik Hazimah from Malaysia, Terengganu, and Rahpriyanto Alam from the Asia Foundation, and my colleague, Dr. Sulistyaningsih. She is associate professor and maybe the candidate of professor, because she's taking for preparation for her professor. Because Putri actually she is of the senior lecture here. She is from the governmental science. Welcome to UMM. And also I want to say hello to Dr. Djoko Sigit Sayogo, Sayogo, yeah. Also from our university, Universiti Muhammadiyah Malang. I only get the great information, I think, that Pak Sayogo will be reach his professor. Maybe, if not this month, maybe he will hold the SK from the Ministry of Education. So the Faculty of Economics Business will have again the great professor, like fresh from the oven. Yeah. Alhamdulillah, you understand what I mean, yeah? I'm worried you didn't understand my English speech. This is a good indicator that you all can catch my speech, even though my academic background is not in English department. The Honorable, our colleague, the Dean of the Faculty of Economic and Business, Ibu, I almost forget her name because every day we just call Umi. We just call Umi. Idazura, Ibu Idazura. Ibu Idazura also almost professor, I think. And all of the vice dean and the dean of the Faculty of Social and Political Science, and also the vice dean, and all of the faculty member and all of students. some of the students that attending here, there is from the foreign international student, like from Sudan. Could you to stand up? Could you to stand up for a while? Stand up. Ah, this is from Sudan. Good. He got scholarship from the KNB, is correct? Yeah. Now she is still joining BIPA. He can speak Arabic and also English well. Sometimes I speak with him, sometimes English, sometimes Arabic. But if I feel lost in my word, I change to the body language with him. Yeah. Thank you. And also from Nigeria. Nigeria. Could you two stand up? Okay, Nigeria. Okay, thank you. He's from Nigeria, and like from Sudan. I'm so sorry, I forgot your name. Yes. Yes. I forgot because I'm professor. You know. Yeah. As professor, sometimes I forgot something. Yes. Even though 1 week ago I met him, gathered in the cafe with another foreign student. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let's say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, because Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala always bestow the blessing and the health to all of us, so that we can gather in the opening ceremony in this conference. Actually, until yesterday, about Jaya, Pak Rector actually would like to, with us, to provide his opening remark, but suddenly, in the early of the morning today, I get that something like this position, message from his secretary to represent him, because in the same time, Pak Rector has the guys from where? From somewhere. From somewhere. Maybe from the East Java, maybe, from the one of the higher Muhammadiyah higher education to do benchmarking here. So Pak Rector with them, and Pak Rector asked me to represent him to deliver the opening remark. So of course, both personally or as representative of the leadership here, I would like to express my happiness because especially the Faculty of Economic and Business and also the Faculty of Social and Political Science can once again can maintain the collaboration as the last year, so we can hold the second conference in this year. So thank you to both of the faculty and also to Institute of Development of Scientific Publication, like Bu Fardini. Bu Fardini is the head of the LPPI, Lembaga Pengembangan Publikasi Ilmiah. With her is her secretary, Pak Mas Tommy. Sometimes we call him Mas Tommy. Mas Tommy. Mas Tommy is already get his PhD from Portugal, from Technical of Industry, from Portugal. He studied there almost 5 years. So you always meet with the Cristiano Ronaldo, I think. Yes. Okay, thank you to Bu Fadil, also Mas Tommy, because they have the good energy to always accompany the faculties here to keep maintain our tradition, academic tradition, like this conference. I think we can take some beneficial from this conference. One of the beneficial is to keep maintain about the academic atmosphere. You know, WMM is the excellent university. as the university, we have the commitment to strong the academic atmosphere by this conference. And I think we can take another beneficial from this conference. For lecture, for example, the paper and maybe the article they publish in the journal can, I think we can develop as the one of the material for their portfolio to move, to mobilize, to make mobility his career as a lecturer until they get the professor. So once again, on behalf of the rector, I hope to the Faculty of Economic and Business and also to the Faculty of Social and Political Science keep the collaboration. So in the next week, we can hold the next conference in 2023. Thank you so much. I think that's all. And let's sing together, Basmalah, to start this conference. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Once again, thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
We invite Professor Shamsul to beat the gong as a sign of the opening ceremony, accompanied by the Dean of Faculty of Economic and Business, Dr. Ida Zuhro, and also Vice Dean of Social and Political Science, Dr. T.A.F. Kurniawati. Please come to the stage and accompany Professor Shamsul to beat the gong. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope my voice can be heard.
Yes,
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore, good afternoon, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Rector of University of Muhammadiyah Malang, Dr. Haji Fausan, M.Pd, who in this occasion represented by Vice Rector for Academic Affairs, Professor Samsul Arifin, Deans, Ibu Dr. Ida Juroh, Dean for Faculty of Economic and Business, and Professor Muslimin, Dean of Social and Political Science, all Civitas Academica of University of Muhammadiyah Malang, distinguished panelists, speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen. I am pleased to speak on this important occasion of the International Conference of Humanities and Social Science, with the main theme is the environment issues and social inclusion in sustainable era. As a Director General of the Agency for Standardization, Environment and Forestry Instrument, or ASEFI, Ministry of Environment and Forestry, stand here representing of the Minister of Environment and Forestry. The Minister, Professor Siti Nurbaya, apologized for not being able to attend this important conference since she has other urgent tasks. We convey her greetings for all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, Now it is time for all of us to step up and strengthen action to address the climate and biodiversity crisis we face, including community and social related to the environmental issues. I note that our environment is facing the problems such as fires, culture, illegal cultivation, toxic waste, biodiversity loss, microplastics, dried pipeline, water and air pollution, and hazardous material contamination, and others problems. I realize those environmental problems interfere of human life, including social relations and communities. For at least 5 years, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Republic of Indonesia, has issued corrective policies to improve Indonesia environment and forestry ecosystem. For example, it is almost certain that peatland fires have come decline drastically during these 5 years. The recovery process currently underway and moving into the post-COVID-19 period will not only focus on health and the economy, but also seek to internalize matters related to the environment and climate change. In my consideration, the social science can also contribute to overcome environmental problems in Indonesia and global. Humanity is an essential part of environmental development. Nowadays, the government of Indonesia is willing to help the world preventing Earth temperature from rising not more than 1.5 degrees Celsius. The forestry and other land use, or we call it FOLU, net carbon sink will be going ahead in accordance with the document of the long-term strategy for low carbon and climate resilient, or LTS-LCCR 2050. Indonesia will increase its ambition of greenhouse gas reduction, with plans to peak greenhouse gases emission with net sink in the FOLU sector by 2030, which has been translated into concrete strategies and roadmap. The Indonesia FOLU net sink 2030 is an important implementation, mitigation, and climate adaptation agenda designed to relate to forest and land, including peatland. To achieve this target, the work system in the living environment is being continuously improved. This was done in order to achieve the emission reduction target of 29% through their own effort and 41% through international assistance in accordance with the emission reduction target in our National Development Contribution document. Recently, the public dialogue in the lead up to the Stockholm Plus 50 meeting at the end of May 2020, Minister Siti Nurbaya emphasized that tackling the climate crisis requires bold action on the ground level. Indonesia continues to take such action as it consistently prioritizes keeping its global climate commitment and meeting its legally binding climate target through leading by example. Minister of Environment and Forestry is increasingly aware of the valid public concern about issues surrounding climate change and the reduction of greenhouse gases emissions, while also bearing in mind the importance of the economic growth. Standardization takes ideal management put in place. In terms of the FOLU net carbon sink target, monitoring, reporting, verifying of carbon counting is crucial to develop. Means standardization of carbon counting should be provided immediately. Calls upon the agenda, it is not sufficient to provide science, but how implementing that is emerging. To improve the environmental with full cycle producing the science needs to implement on the ground. Many talents should be taken to ensure the environment and forestry policy, considering the science. We are aware the barrier come face. The key is not how to ensure the practitioners improve in every process of science production and also establishing trust. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, Indonesia has 126 million hectares of forest areas, and it means 65% of land areas in Indonesia covers by forest from totally of 187 million hectares. Forests also produce not only timber, but also non-timber products, such as gums, honey, rattans, bamboos, medicinal plants, and etc. Most of the product is managed by village communities, including indigenous people. Non-timber products have become a part of forest community life, and it has been done generation to generation. These non-timber products also located in production forests, protected forests, national park, watershed area, etc. And it has become a social bond between human and forest. Problem related to human and forest also occurs because human needs to meet their interests in standard of life, such as food, clothing, and housing. In my opinion, that social science can be developed human and communities to involve and improve the social problem on environment and forestry sectors. Relation between human and forest has been going for hundreds of years, and it bounded in culturally. Forest and environment without human cannot manage well because humans were important aspect to ensure environmental goes well. I know that this international conference in social science can contribute new scientific knowledge for human and environment. Related to the social and human activities, Minister of Environment and Forestry has published Minister Regulation Number 9, year 2021 on social forestry. This regulation supports community which live near forest area to get access to forest. Social forest covers forest in state or non-state jurisdiction and have 5 programs such as village forest, community forest, customary forest, community forest plantation, and forest partnership. It has become our ministry strategy to manage forest by involvement social concept and knowledge to strengthen people participation in forest governance. Social forestry also gives access to community, and by their participation, sustainable forest management can be implemented to increase income community which live near the forest area, so that social forestry contributes in social, economically, and also ecologically aspect for human lives. The presence of law number 11 of 2020 related to job creation has given new opportunity for community near the forest area. In addition to get access to forest, community also gets the ease of doing business in forestry sector, primarily for small and medium-scale enterprises. It will be an opportunity for them to develop business and create a better world for their family. This law is also becoming a form of state support for small and medium enterprise so that new jobs can be created in many sectors, starting from national, subnational, also at the village area. In 2021, Indonesia has gotten positively economic growth by 7.07% year-on-year, and it indicates that Indonesia firmly out from recession zone during pandemic COVID-19. It proves that the current Indonesia government policy has been running properly and has an impact on 2 things, namely increasing investment and increasing production capacity. Scientists on human and social science also contribute to increase community capacity by encouraging their skills in marketing and economic channeling, improves packaging of product, social engineering action, etc. Speakers invite distinguished participants. On this occasion, I would like to ask permission to introduce Agency for Standardization, Environment and Forestry Instrument, or ASEFI. ASEFI was established in July last year. Actually, today, July the 1st, is our first birthday. It was focused on coordinating for the formulating, development, implementation, and assessment of standards for environmentally sound in all sectors and its implementation. The agency also has to oversight the standards to be implemented appropriately. This means that SRP has an important role in environmental safeguard through standardization. Human activities such as mines, forest fire, illegal trade, climate change, etc., have caused environmental damage, and it needs our responsibility for improvement. SFE, which carries out the mandate of standardization of environment and forestry instrument, has the main role of providing national standards to safeguard the activities or the business which has an impact on the human health and also the environment, even safety of human. We ensure that the implementation of the standard will be internalized on each species permit. To implement the standard, SFE will play a role setting standards for environmental and forestry management, including social engineering, social forestry, sustainable forest management, sustainable environmental management, management without burning, standard for sustainable peatland ecosystem, mangrove management, biodiversity conservation standard on environment or forest ecosystem, and development of natural tourism on forest ecosystem, also environmental standard for Nusantara, the new Indonesian capital. Further, I would like to emphasize that this international conference can support Indonesia on social and human improvement. At the same time, I expect that the universities and international entities can synergize with the MEF to establish international narrative which develop a good image for Indonesia government in international relationship in PROM, develops common interest, and mark improvement on environment in right place. We expect the strong bond of partnership between universities also other parties or countries will be a point of pride for Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, we realize that we cannot work alone to develop environmental and forestry sectors. Enhancing significant finding requires collaboration between scientists and or agencies from different institutional and partners. We hope your finding can be disseminated and communicated widely by this meeting. We do hope a new science and of social and human update provided in these talks, which we'll hear about in a minute. Lastly, we would like to express our sincere thanks and appreciation to all of you who continuously provide strong support to environment improvement. We need to work hand in hand to support each other so that we can recover together and become stronger and more sustainable. Please accept my sincere gratitude. May God bless us all and have fruitful and productive discussion. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much for your kind introduction. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wa bihi nasta'in ala umuri dunya waddin. Assalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbis shrah sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amma ba'd. Our Excellency, Professor Dr. Siti Nurbaya, M.Sc, Minister of Environment and Forestry, Insinyur Ari Sudijanto, Head of Environment and Forestry Instrument Standardization Board, Rector of University of Muhammadiyah Malang, Vice Rectors, Dean of the Faculty of Economic and Business, Dean of the Faculty of Social and Political Science along with the staff, Head of the Department Program in the Faculty of Business, Economics and Business and the Faculty of Social and Political Science along with the staffs, distinguished guests, the honorable speakers and participants, welcome to the plenary session of the Second International Conference on Humanity and Social Science 2022. My name is Happy Febrina. I'm a lecturer from Department of Development Economics, and I will be serving you as your moderator today in the plenary session with the theme Environmental Issues and Social Inclusion in Sustainable Era. The COVID-19 pandemic forces us to realize that we live in an incredibly vulnerable world. All countries are struggling to contain the virus's transmission and, at the same time, minimize its unprecedented impact on socio-economic development and environmental health, and its impacts that threaten the achievement of sustainable development goals. Furthermore, the world has been experiencing various environmental issues, and the emergence of global environmental issues such as climate change, marine pollution, and biodiversity loss has brought new challenges to governance and requires political support and innovation from global public policies. What strategies and policies the government should respond to this issue? And what can we do to face any future challenges on the situations ahead? To answer those questions, we have an all-stars panel from 4 different organizations. But before that, I would like to invite Dr. Sulistyaningsih M.Si from Faculty of Social and Political Science, and Mr. Djoko Sigit Sayogo Ph.D. from Faculty of Economics and Business to come on stage. Also, I would like to say hello to our respected speakers who are already joining us in Zoom. Mr. Andoh Ph.D. from CSIR Forestry Research Institute of Ghana, Mr. Alam Surya Putra, Deputy of Environmental Governance Unit from the Asia Foundation, Dr. Nik Hazimah Bt Nik Mat from Universiti Malaysia, Terengganu. Good afternoon from Malang. Before we get started, I would like to give you some information about this plenary session. For respected speakers, you will have to maximum 15 minutes for presentation, and we will finish with the Q&A at the end of the session. For online participants, you will have the opportunity to submit your questions or opinions by typing your question in the chat box in Zoom on our YouTube channel. And for the audience here, you can directly raise your hand and ask your question during the Q&A session later. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to our first speaker, Dr. Sulistyaningsih M.Si from Faculty of Social and Political Science, University of Muhammadiyah Malang. Dr. Tri obtained her doctoral degree in University of Brawijaya. Her area of specialization is in urban politics and public policy. In the last 10 years, she has carried out numerous research in various areas of governance corporations. She also has published a lot of publications in the form of journals, articles, proceedings, and also conference papers. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Tri. The floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Alhamdulillahilladzi arsala rasulahu bil huda wa dinil haq liyudhirahu ala dini kulli wa kafa billahi syahida. Asyhadu alla ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Honorable Dr. Isti Nurbaya, Minister of Environment and Forestry Republic of Indonesia, Honorable Rektor Universitas Muhammadiyah Malang, and Vice Rector Prof. Samsul Arifin, Honorable Dean of the Faculty of Social and Politics and Economic and Business, Universiti Muhammadiyah Malang, all speakers, Jawal Andoh, Dr. Nik Hazimah Alam Surya Putra, and Mr. Djoko Sigit Sayogo, and all participants of International Conference on Humanities and Social Science 2022. I would like to present my topic about the public policy and analysis on watershed management. I want to start before the introduction about the watershed. Watersheds are strategic area necessary for economic, social, culture, and environmental conservation interests. The sustainable of social ecological depend in part upon the between institutions, the problem they are meant to address, and the context in which they operate. Most countries, including Tanzania and South Africa, have initiated water sector reform programs that stress comprehensive river basin management based on integrated water resources management, IWRM principle, user involvement in government, cost recovery, and sustainable resources use. Integrated water resources management identifies critical factor for genuine stakeholder involvement and decision making at the basin level to make more relevant and useful policies. Here, stakeholder participation in the river basin management is debate and a complex socio-political process that must consider and the concept of the rings and interests across sector and user in the basin. At the program, from command and control status and the collaborate participant partnership, increase public administrator, policy makers, and watershed stakeholders will become more dependent to collaborate participants to solve complex environment problems. In Indonesia, a very important aspect to ensure that watershed management can run according to the desired line in the regulator aspect. We have the three levels of policy: one national scope, regional scope, and local scope. The regulations from management of Brantas watershed show that the management of the watershed has not been supported by institutional design that support the well-functioned management of the Brantas watershed. The overlapping roles of central government against and overlapping roles between the central and local governments in watershed management in planning, evaluating, and directing activities have resulted in the sectoral conflict between central government agencies toward the watershed in Indonesia. Now we can talk about the concept of the institutional fit. First, the institutional fit related to environmental issues. We have five academic to inspiring about the institutional fit related to environmental issues. Hackathon 2008 introduced the concept of institutional fit that help institutional analysis comprehend the complexity inherent in the human environmental system and the sustained society. Young referred that institutional fit is closely associated with predicting analysis with the governance arrangement and might be stressed. Calculated from formalization can improve institutional fit. The concept defines from the expressing specific theoretical problems that associate and set variables to one others and the result. Okay, I continued with the institutional fit and industrial gap in the water resources and river basin governance. Integrated management of water resources is needed to reach the sustainable management of water resources, like Service and van der Zaak 2000 proposed as classical template for the distribution of management and international water resources, like in the figure 1. The three pillars represent that necessary elements for sharing and managing international water resource. The political pillar to implement and enabling environment, creating opportunities for international cooperation and planning. And the legal, institutional, post-content, traditional, and institutional instrument involved in the national and international level. The technical or operational pillar must be placed, allowing for the broad concepts to be translated to active measures and action. This pillar is regarded as central for successful management of international basin. Relevant perspective on the institutional fit of IUW, RAM, and river basin depend of Bandar Goda and Babel. The IUWRM process in developing countries is part of the development peak. It seems that the institutional model tends to impose to the complexity and head. In India, based on Reddy, found that watershed management requires technology as a good and conclusive policy. Meanwhile, from a legal standpoint, he did not find legislative support. Meanwhile, et al. Impacts area was management, which is due to lack of authority possessed by Jasa Tirta as manager of environmental problem, and increasing number of institutions consisting of policy, law, and administration play an essential role in managing water resources, especially watershed. and found the international collaboration model in river basin sustainability. Collaboration in environmental management is a complex process because it is involves in all interests. Based on professional research findings that show the existence of institutional gap, an appropriate model is needed for sustainable river basin management. The proposed model of institutional collaboration partnership for river basin sustainability, like in Figure 2, and development based on the 3 pillars of the sustainable development model. And last collaborative model for policy analysis is in water resources management rests on the integration of 4 key pillars. About the regulation as watershed management depend on our research. We can describe that the Indonesian government is trying to focus on watershed management from a management aspect. This indicated that implementing watershed regulation is determined by the synergy of many aspects that will make a set regulatory policies in the watershed regulation. So we can see about the figure 5 refers that there is relationship between aspect of the Brantas River management in Indonesia is indicated by percent correlation coefficient correlation values obtained from the coding result on the regulatory contents regarding Brantas River governance, like the figure 5. About the priorities, watershed management regulated priorities, the watershed management priority for regulation use issued by the government following like the figure 6 is institutional arrangement. Strong institutions are an essential key in the success of the management regulation. The government needs to strengthen institutions with a robust legal framework and adequate authority to support monitoring, control, and evaluation function. I try to continue in this principle is the multi-sector watershed management has involved many actors from various sectors of government organization. The different regulatory partners of the multi-organization give birth the many legal products of policies, like the figure. Oh, lebih kurang keras. Oh, siap. Okay. Result of our discussion that Indonesia watershed management regulation show regulations that pay attention to watershed management that involve sustainable management activities, namely regulation that regulate integrated, participatory, and collaborative water resource management. Watershed management activities are the key to the success of realizing good water resources management, which is determined by supervision activities strong to institutional clarity of institutional power and authority, and the maturity of planning, monitoring, evaluation, and supervision. Indonesia government does not yet have an institutional design supporting watershed management. The central government and local government have a different perception and policies toward watershed management, even among them. There are struggle of the transfer of responsibility for watershed management. The unclear watershed management mechanism in Indonesia is direct consequence of the centralization of watershed management. The centralization of watershed management is reflected in the central government's watershed management regulation through law, government regulation, presidential regulation, and minister regulation. So the conclusion about sustainable watershed management, that the Indonesian government has neglected planning, performance, and immediate action, resulting in unclear watershed management in Indonesia. The fuzzy watershed management in Indonesia is direct consequence of the centralization watershed management. The central government plays a dominant role compared to local government in watershed management. The domination on the central government's role illustrates that watershed management in Indonesia is not yet integrated between the central and regional government. Another problem in the centralization of watershed management is the overlapping roles of central government agencies in watershed management. Many management agencies authority in planning, evaluating, and directing activities which the result sectoral conflict between central government agencies in the direction of watershed in Indonesia. So, the study confirmed that the Indonesia government has not success in realizing integrated, participatory, and collaborative watershed management, which also ensures that watershed management in Indonesia has not been supported by institutional design that supported well-functioning watershed management. Indonesia government needs to present institutional arrangements such as legal regulation. The regulated watershed management have a clear division of watershed management authority and prioritize and integrated, participatory, and collaborative watershed management. So we can give the recommendation about how to make watershed management sustainable. We give name smart water management concept as recommendation. Smart water management optimize use of the technology information and communication (TIC) and can provide real-time automatic data on the status and the environment of natural resources, as well as natural resources that are implemented based on integrated management and natural resources. Smart water management support policy making at various levels of control, water user groups, and throughout the region, from the planning level to technical operation, daily use supporting regulation and policy making. And the last, smart water management can be done monitoring water levels in the real time, identifying leaks in the water distribution system, and monitoring and maintaining water quality. In addition, all data and analysis results can be accessed from devices such as smartphone based on local business. Thank you very much for your listening and your attention. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Tri, for your presentation. That was very informative and also insightful for us. I will definitely take a look at it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the second speaker, Dr. Jewel Andoh. He obtained his Ph.D. in Regional Development in Yunnan University, South Korea. He has numerous work experiences related to the community development projects involving government and non-government organizations. He also participated in the new generation of forest technology development research in the Research Center for Advanced Forest Technology, which is funded by Korea Forest Service. Furthermore, he has published various publications in the form of journals and articles. Now, he's working as a research scientist at CSIR Forestry Research Institute of Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Jewel Andoh. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, M.Si. Assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.
Yeah, I would like to thank the organizers of this conference and also inviting me to be part of the guest speakers. Warmest greetings from Ghana. I would like to share my screen with you so that we can. Okay, I believe everybody can see my screen now. All right, so today I would like to share with you what we are doing in Ghana with respect to mitigating climate change. We all know the adverse effects of climate change, which is flooding, droughts, and other incidents of diseases that Ghana is also part. So today, my name is Dr. Jewel Andoh, and I am with the Forest Policy Governance and Livelihood Division, CSIR Forestry Research Institute of Ghana. And my topic for today, or what I would like to speak on, is advancing REDD+ implementation in Ghana for climate change mitigation, exploring opportunities for international cooperation. So my presentation outline for today, we would like to look at the overview of REDD+, then do some small illustrations of REDD+, the REDD+ processes, why REDD+ in Ghana, the goals of REDD+ in Ghana, then the current state of REDD+ in Ghana, the areas for collaboration and cooperation for REDD+ in Ghana, then framework for cooperation, and also I will conclude. I believe by now we all are well of the REDD+ program that is ongoing, and I believe Indonesia is actively also participating in the REDD+ program. So REDD+ actually came about as a result of the rate of deforestation globally. So in 2005, at the Conference of Parties to the UNFCCC 11, Papua New Guinea and Costa Rica proposed that there should be a reduction of emission of deforestation and degradation. So in 2007, in Bali, Indonesia, at the Conference of Parties 13 to the UNFCCC, they decided to broaden the concept of REDD to REDD+, which incorporates forest conservation, also talks about sustainable forest management, and also enhancement of forest carbon store. So actually, REDD+ is basically an incentive for developing countries that are willing to participate in the REDD+ program. So countries that want to reduce emissions from deforestation and forest degradation are provided with some economic incentives for the reduced reduction. So the illustration here shows emissions over the years, that's the year 20XX over a time period. And to reduce emissions, there should be a reference level or a reference emission level so that you can be able to judge that you have been able to reduce emissions from the actions that you implemented. So the emissions or the actions that you implement includes conservation, includes forest carbon stock enhancement, includes sustainable forest management, includes climate smart agriculture and others. So over a period, if you're able to account that these actions that you implemented has reduced emissions reduced emissions, then you can be able to be paid or you can be able to be given some incentive. So for REDD+ processes, actually, it has been agreed on that REDD+ should go through 3 phases: the phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. So the phase 1 is the readiness preparation, then the phase 2 is the implementation phase, then phase 3 is the results-based payments. So when you look at the figure on our screen, you can see each of the phases and what it entails. So for the phase 1, countries are supposed to develop their idea note, they are supposed to develop their readiness preparation proposal, they are supposed to develop their national strategies, they are supposed to build their capacities for implementation, they are supposed to create awareness for the implementation of REDD+. And when it comes to the implementation phase, countries are now supposed to implement the strategies or the actions that they have put together, and they are also to monitor the activities of the forest landscape. Then for phase 3, they are supposed to measure, they are supposed to report on the reduced emissions, and there should be a verification from a verification VCF, a verification carbon standard, then there can be a payment. So for the result-based payments, countries are supposed to report, then they can be measured, then it can be verified. So why REDD+ in Ghana? So Ghana, as I said, is one of the countries in the African continent, and it is in the west coast of Africa. So Ghana is bordered by Côte d'Ivoire, or Ivory Coast, we say, Burkina Faso to the north, then Togo to the right. So the red mark you see on the map is Ghana. So Ghana population as it stands now is about 32 million established. Then the key economic sectors are agriculture, industry, and the service industry. So for deforestation, as it stands now, the rate of deforestation in Ghana is about 2% per annum or 2% per year. And it is driven by agriculture, the forestry sector, and the land use sectors. So according to studies, between 1990 to 2000, Ghana lost an average of 135,000 hectares of forest cover per annum. So in all these cases, because we all are aware that the forest absorbs the carbon, and therefore when they are cut, they releases carbon to the atmosphere, which contributes to climate change. And therefore, all these activities are contributing to climate change. Ghana needs to put measures in place to be able to mitigate such kind of activities. So what are some of the activities that are driving deforestation, or what are the anthropogenic causes of deforestation in Ghana? So in Ghana, we have agriculture, but the one that is driving it's cocoa expansion. So Ghana is one of the leading producers of cocoa, and therefore most of the farmers tend to expand some of their farms to cocoa production. Then we have illegal logging, we have illegal mining, we have wood harvesting or extraction, and we have charcoal production, which are the main direct causes. We have underlying factors, which are institutional policies and all that all this has come together and they are causing deforestation for degradation in Ghana. There's also urbanization or population growth or settlement. So we can see from the slide that from 1986 to 2018, there has been an increase in the urban areas or urban settlements. So 86, it was small. 2000, there has been an increase in urban areas and even in agricultural lands in the forest areas. To 2010, there has also been an increase, and also 2018, there has also been an increase as a result of population growth. So as the population grows, there's a huge demand for buildings, which therefore leads to deforestation. However, in Ghana, the government have implemented a lot of policies to address this kind of challenge, environmental challenges or environmental issues. So there has been the forest and wildlife policy, there has been the climate change policy, there has been the National Red Plus strategy, which is ongoing. There has been the environmental protection law that is also being implemented to address all these challenges. So over the years, you can see from the slide, the land usage changes in Ghana from 1992 to 2020. And we can see the various land uses. We have the water bodies, bare areas, shrubland, we have settlement, we have wetland, grassland, forest, and agriculture. So here I will focus on agricultural lands and forest lands. So we can see from the graph that forest cover has been increasing over the years from 1992 to 2020. So in 1992, the forest cover was about 30%. However, as a result of policies that the government has implemented, as I said earlier on, the forest cover has increased to about 35% in 2020. Agriculture seemed to be reducing. Agriculture seemed to be stagnant or same over the years from 1992 to 2020. Implement Red Plus to be able to, because of Red Plus in Ghana, that's one, degradation. Two, to preserve Ghana's to climate smart agriculture. Then to expand platforms for collaboration and sustainable economic development. And also to generate innovation to improve the livelihoods of people living in the forest communities. So what is the current state of Red Plus in Ghana now? So in Ghana, as I said, Ghana joined the Red Plus program in 2008. So it started preparing its documents and all that. And so far, Ghana has been able to develop mechanisms, structures to be able to move from the readiness phase to the implementation phase. So Ghana has developed the National Red Plus strategy, which is the NRS, NFMS. Ghana has also now established the baseline, which is the forest reference emission level or the forest reference level. Then Ghana has also developed the measurement, reporting, and verification system. Then there's also a safeguard information system that the country has developed to be able to be ready to implement the Red Plus. So for Red Plus, all this needs to be met before a country can be able to implement effectively. So for now, Ghana has initiated 2 national programs now. So Ghana is divided into 3 main ecological zones. So we have the high forest zone, we have the transition zone, and we have the savanna zone. So at the high forest zone, which is down on the map, there's this program ongoing, which is the emission reductions program for the cocoa forest mosaic landscape, which is being implemented to be able to savage situations with regards to cocoa expansion. Then at the Savannah region, there is this program called the Shared Savannah Woodland Program that is yet to be fully implemented. It's currently being piloted at the Northern Zone. Now, at the Transition Zone, there's no REDD+ program yet, which we'll talk about in our next slide. So Ghana is now ready and is now piloting other programs or projects to be implemented before it fully takes off and then move to the resource-based payments. So we have the readiness phase, we have the implementation phase, then we have the resource-based payments also phase. But Ghana is here to move to that stage. So a study that we conducted in 2018 shows the level at which countries that are participating in the REDD+ have adhered to or paid attention to the UNFCCC REDD+ rules. So countries that are willing or interested in implementing REDD+ are supposed to adhere to the Warsaw framework, which is the strategies that countries need to prepare. They need to submit their safeguards information. They need to put their national forest monitoring system in place before they can be able to implement REDD+. So we checked countries including Ethiopia, Ghana, Liberia, Papua New Guinea, Nepal, Zambia, Indonesia, Sri Lanka in 2018 to see their level of attention to these UNFCCC REDD+ rules. And we realized that Ghana is about 95% when it comes to the attention to these rules. Ethiopia is 81%, Liberia 57%, Papua New Guinea 57%, Nepal 62%, Zambia 76%, Indonesia 76%, Sri Lanka 76%. So this is more of like a REDD+ readiness audit that we did for these countries. Also, we want to look at the area for cooperation or collaboration with some international organizations or foreign countries. So in our first map that I showed, I mentioned that there are two national programs that is being implemented now. The High Forest Zone, which is the Cocoa Mosaic for REDD+ program, then the Savannah Zone. So currently, we want to also do REDD+ program in the Transition Zone. Which is forest landscape restoration, our REDD+. So for forest landscape restoration, the objective is targeted at the Sustainable Development Goals 1, which talks about end poverty. Then the Sustainable Development Goals 8, which talks about decent work or decent employment. Then the Sustainable Development Goal 18, which talks about climate action. So the objective is to restore 100,000 hectares of deforested and degraded forest lands in the Transition Zone, establish 10,000 hectares of cashew plantation on the restored lands, establish 10,000 hectares of coffee plantation also, and train and employ 2,000 unemployed youths for cashew and coffee production. So these unemployed youths will include men and women and the youth in those areas. So now we want to look at the framework for cooperation. So how do we cooperate with foreign international organizations or our local organizations or other foreign countries like Indonesia, Korea, Norway, anywhere? So for the forest landscape restoration, we are looking at the research and development. We're also looking at the project design and implementation. How do we collaborate? How do we cooperate to be able to work effectively and efficiently to be able to implement forest landscape restoration in the Transition Zone? So we were looking at like funding and knowledge sharing. So maybe Indonesia has been able to do a forest landscape restoration successfully. Korea has been able to do forest rehabilitation successfully. Other countries have been able to implement some kind of policies that have worked, that we can share knowledge. And also the challenge about implementation, especially in developing countries, is funding. So if we can be able to get funds to be able to implement such kind of policies or strategies or actions, it will be an effective thing to do. So in conclusion to this brief session, I can say that Ghana has advanced in the REDD+ readiness preparation phase, but yet to fully implement strategies and actions to address the drivers of deforestation and forest degradation, and ultimately reduce emissions and increase removals. In view of this advancement, Ghana needs to collaborate or cooperate with other countries, organizations, institutions, local and traditional authorities to realize REDD+. So collaboration and cooperation with these stakeholders will result in better, effective and efficient management of Ghana's forest. Without cooperation, without collaboration with other countries, without collaboration with other stakeholders, it will be very difficult to be able to implement and achieve climate mitigation or be able to fight climate change. And therefore, these are some of the things that Ghana is hoping to achieve. I'd like to say thank you so much for your attention, and I'll be online for any questions that I can address. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Joel Andoh, for your presentation. I actually have one question for you, but we will wait until the Q&A session. And ladies and gentlemen, before we move to our third speakers, I would like to invite Mr. Djoko Sigit Sayogo, Ph.D. to come on the stage. Please welcome Mr. Djoko Sigit Sayogo, Ph.D. Please come on stage. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we move to the third speakers today, Mr. Alam Suryaputra. He's working with the Asia Foundation since 2004. Recently, he serves as Director of Environmental Governance Unit that responsible for developing and managing environmental governance program. He also has over 15 years experience in governance and decentralization, economic reform and development, and civil society engagement. Without any further ado, please welcome Mr. Alam Suryaputra. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for moderator. And I would like to thank the organizer, University of Muhammadiyah Malang, for inviting us to present what the Asia Foundation at and CSO partners doing on developing ecological fiscal transfer, or common called AFT policies in Indonesia. The Asia Foundation is managing environmental governance program in Indonesia and partnering with over 30 CSO partners to promote this initiative. Yeah, ecological fiscal transfer actually is global initiative to provide fiscal instrument for financing environmental protection agenda. There are pool of experts define AFT as transfer public revenue between governments within a country based on ecological indicator. Then, learning from global initiative that already exists in several countries, such as Brazil, India, China, and France, the Asia Foundation and Indonesia CSO networks initiate to this idea on promoting ecological fiscal transfer starting on 2018. With serious discussion with government stakeholder, particularly with fiscal policy agency in Ministry of Finance, we define Indonesia ecological fiscal transfer as an incentive scheme for subnational government to achieve their performance on promoting environmental protection agenda. So it will be a fiscal transfer from higher level government, such as national, provincial government, and district or cities government, to lower level government, such as provincial, cities, or district and village government. And why AFT matter for Indonesia? So all of you may be aware that Indonesia is one of the second largest rainforest cover in the world after Brazil. Indonesia has also gigantic forest cover in Papua Island. However, the threat of deforestation and land degradation in Indonesia raises commitment from the government of Indonesia to develop agenda to promote sustainable development practices, such as commitment for reduction emission, green planning development, and other tangible commitment. But the budget allocation for implementing this commitment is relatively limited. So this is one of the reasons for the Asho Foundation and its CSO networks to promote policy reform agenda on ecological fiscal transfer. This is the CSO proposal on an adoption by the government. The AFT scheme was developed in line with government structure and financial transfer mechanism. The concept of national AFT that we call TANE is transfer anggaran nasional berbasis ekologi, and at the provincial level AFT that called TAPE, transfer anggaran provinsi berbasis ekologi, and at the district entitled as TAKE, transfer anggaran kabupaten berbasis ekologi, were developed and promoted in several locations in Indonesia. The TANE one has been adopted by the government through the issuing of Regional Incentive Fund or DID, which including the component of forest and land management sector. And this fund already allocated in this year national budget. On the subnational scheme that called TAPE and TAKE, the adoption had been successfully adopted in 17 local governments, and other 5 local governments are under process of the adoption. This map shows the adoption of AFT scheme in Indonesia per June 2022. The yellow color is the government who have adopted this AFT scheme. There are 15 local government, district government, I mean, and 2 provincial government on TAPE. And the red ones is the local government who are ongoing processes on developing the adoption. There are some lessons from our experience on how CSO have the powerful to influence on promoting the development forest-friendly policy in Indonesia, particularly on ecological fiscal transfer. That's why we call develop policy from the peripheries. The first, the promoted idea from CSO have brought a significant reform policy agenda on developing an alternative budget policy to environmental protection agenda. The second, building good practices from the region through development of pilot project can encourage policy adoption at the national level. And the third, we think the engagement with regional head and other strategic actors such as parliamentary member or DPR help accelerate the AFT adoption both at the regional and national level. How the AFT contribute to global AFT adoption? It is noted that Indonesia now has located as emerging country who already adopted or implementing AFT in several countries, and you can see some country has already established in Brazil, in India, and in China. What the impact of the EFT? There are some impact regarding the adoption of EFT. The first, EFT has created a commitment from local leaders to promote sustainable development agenda. For instance, in North Kalimantan, they developed the new commitment on payment environmental services policies, and in Jayapura, they built green economy village policies, and some others already also continue to promoting sustainable development agenda. The second, the AFT also contributed to develop new direction of performance-based fiscal transfer policy in the new revision of law on national regional financing relation, or we call the Undang-Undang HKPD. And the third, this AFT works has been adopted by some international institutions that working in Indonesia, such as ADB, USAID, and UNDP on managing their environmental project. And this is some unintended outcome. This story will tell you the result of AFT development in North Kalimantan. In North Kalimantan, who piloting or initiator of TAPE, during COVID-19 pandemic, many street vendors have closed their business since no school operating their activity. So almost a year, they didn't have received any income. So when the Tanah Tidung, the district government in North Kalimantan, receive their TAPE incentive, the incentive for ecological performance from the provincial government, they built solar cell installation to provide lights in the city parks. As results, the many street vendors can reoperate their business again and located in the city of Park. The light in city of Park can build the economic opportunity again for street vendors in Tanah Tidung. The other story in Siak, who already adopted ecological fiscal transfer scheme that called TAKE, the scheme who promoting the incentive, fiscal incentive for the village government. After they adopted this policy, it is blooming of local initiative to mitigate environmental impacts that benefiting to environmental outcome. For instance, in that area, the reduction of number of forest fire hotspots is already happened. So forest fire hotspot decrease in that area. And lastly, what's next for the agenda, for the CSO agenda? It is noted that expanding the adoption of regional EFT is needed, and it will be develop the institutionalization of TAKE and TAPE through Minister of Home Affairs that who has authority on managing that region, and the second is exploring the scheme to optimizing the use of other revenue sharing fund. For instance, using reforestation fund on commonly acknowledged as DBHDR and others revenue sharing mechanism or fund from other sector that can be promoting for performance-based fiscal transfer. So that's it for me, and welcome for comment or answering for question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Alam Surya Putra, for your presentation. Before we move on to the next speaker, I would like to remind to the online participants, you can submit your questions in the chat box in Zoom or on our YouTube channel during the presentation, and I will deliver your questions to our speakers later in the Q&A sessions. So ladies and gentlemen, our fourth speaker is from our neighbor country, Malaysia, Dr. Nik Hazimah Bt Nik Mat. She is an associate professor in Faculty of Business, Economics and Social Development in Universiti Malaysia, Terengganu. She gained her Ph.D. in Management in Edith Cowan University, Australia. Her research expertise is in organizational and management studies, modern workplace adaptation, HRM practices implementation and development, as well as environmental management and sustainability development. She also received many research grants from Ministry of Education Malaysia. Moreover, she has published various articles in journals, book chapters, modules, and also monographs. Well, please welcome Dr. Nik Hazimah. The time is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear my voice? Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Yeah? No?
Yeah.
Can you hear my voice?
Yes, we can hear your voice. Can you turn up your volume a little bit?
Yeah, this is already maximum.
It's already maximum.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Can you hear clearly?
Yes, we can hear your voice.
All right. Thank you very much to our lovely chairperson, honorable guests, deans, head of departments, academics, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, it is an honor for me to be part of this conference. Actually, listening to the song earlier with the amazing sceneries and views from Indonesia, it is very close to the heart. Okay, and this suggests that the theme for the conference related to the environmental issues and social inclusion is actually very relevant in this current scenario and situation in which we need to preserve the environment that we have, so that not only for our existing society but also to the future generation, right? So I try to share my screen first. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Yeah?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay, let me try again. Not yet? You cannot see my screen? Yeah?
Not yet.
Okay, hang on please. Sorry for the technical issues. Or can the committee share the screen? Because I already shared with the committee as well.
Yeah, sure. The committee, can you please help Dr. Nik Mat to share the screen?
Thank you very much. Sorry for the trouble.
Okay, while waiting for the presentation, how are you, Dr. Nik Mat?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much. Yeah. So it is very, I am very happy to be part of the conference today and listening to the previous speakers that share about what is happening in Indonesia, what is happening in Ghana, which is very insightful, I think. And the third speaker as well, talking about the fiscal policies, EFT. This is very good sharing, I think. Not only for the academics, for the researchers, but also for the participants and related parties that involved with environment and also social issues. Because as we know, due to the pandemic COVID-19, there are so many things that we need to think, we need to consider, not only for the businesses, but also in terms of living as individuals, all right? So thank you very much for sharing my, what we call that, slide. Okay, so for today, I will share, I think I go to a broader view, okay, as compared to the earlier speakers. I go with a broader view in terms of more, in terms of research gap in academics, okay? So the main topic is about missing linking pin of social sustainability. Okay, next please. Alright, so this is some of the information about myself. It is actually been mentioned by the chairperson just now. So basically, in terms of my research interest, I am more in human resource management and also organizational studies. Back then, in 2010, my perspective in terms of researching for my study is typically focusing on human resource management. However, as time goes by, when there are so many uncertainties, we realize, we are aware of our complex environment, then I think it become an eye-opener for me as a researcher and also as an academic, which is my topic, human resource management, is not only about recruitment, it's not only about selection, it's not only about reward and compensation, but there are another entities or element that may involve human resource management, which related with environmental management and also sustainability development. Because at the end of the day, when we are talking about sustainability, it is not about human development alone, but there are another element in the sustainability pillars. Okay, next please. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, so when we are talking about sustainability, we cannot ignore any of these elements. Okay, because the main component of sustainability include economic, environmental, and also social. Okay, although my field of study, my research is particularly on human resource management, but without we realize, all the business aspect is actually related as well with environment and also social. Okay, so that's why I guess the theme chosen for this conference is actually more current, and also we can call it a pressing concern that academics and researchers are looking into. Right? Next, please. Okay, when we are talking about the first element, economics, we know that in business particularly, the main purpose of doing business is for profit maximization. So that's why in sustainability pillars, economic has become the main purpose of sustainability, which what we call that goes hand in hand with environmental and also social. Okay, because we cannot ignore, we cannot deny that attention goes to economic measures, all right? Because the outcomes are actually measurable and also tangible. We can see, we can measure. We can measure whenever the profit increase, we can measure whenever the profit decrease. Okay, it happens interchangeably, okay, in the business, right? So this is particularly true when we are talking about in the business environment, we are concerned about organizational performance, okay? Especially with the issue of pandemic COVID-19, and even we heard from one of the speakers saying that some of the businesses, I don't think it is some, in Malaysia as well, we can say that a major component of the business entities is actually affected. Affected negatively in the sense that some of the businesses need to shutting down their operation. The organization need to downsize the size of the human capital and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's why in terms of the economics, we cannot deny the major part of the financial measures. Economics is very concerning, not only for individual but also for the businesses. All right. So during the COVID-19, we know we have already feel the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now this is time for most of the country to plan for recovery. Okay, I know it's not easy, but the purpose is for every companies and also individual to have a financial resilience. Okay, because COVID-19 is something that is unprecedented. We never imagined that such event that shutting down the whole world can happen. Okay, so to deal with unprecedented event like COVID-19 has prepared everyone with the uncertainties, unforeseen risks that might be faced by any individual, especially for the businesses. Next, please. Okay, now I share with you some of the article that I did with my student related to the economic sustainability. Okay, in this particular paper, basically we are searching, we are exploring about the survival of SMEs in facing with uncertainties. Okay, so the main focus or the main event that we are explored for this paper is on the climate change impact. Okay, so in this matter, we know, like I said earlier, when we are talking about economic, there is something that is measurable. Okay, we can see the increased loss, the increased profit, what we call that, the negative impact in terms of revenue and financial outcomes. So we know that there needs to be an adaptation strategy in facing with climate change impact. So in this study, we are using VRIN concept from the resource-based view to identify whether or not the concept is actually relevant, okay, in the matter of facing with uncertainties. So the result of this study or finding from this article, we found that it is actually contradictory, okay, because actually each and every participant of this study, they use their what we call that unique characteristic then it is not limited to only VRI and concept alone. All right. So next, please. Next, please. Okay. Okay, we move to the second pillar of sustainability, which is environmental. I guess last 2 weeks, I have the opportunity to listen to the presentation from the participant from Indonesia, in which they have presented a very good topic about environmental sustainability. One of the presenter is actually presenting about green human resource management model in oil and gas sector, okay, which is the findings is very interesting because surprisingly, the presenter said that they never, what we call the aspect, the main factor that influence the implementation of green human resource management model in oil and gas companies in Indonesia is actually attributed or influenced by the leadership. Okay, so meaning that it is not only the policy alone that drive the implementation of the green human resource management, but it is also supported by the leadership, by the what we call that the management support. Okay, which actually give a big impact to the level or intensity of implementation of green human resource management model. Another presenter from Indonesia that present about environmental sustainability, she actually researching about green intellectual capital and green innovation, suggesting to me that issues about green human resource management and also about what we call that, sorry, for the interruption. Okay, sorry. I said just now about the presenter about green intellectual capital and also green innovation. It is actually the same thing happen. The findings is actually tailoring into the leadership, transformational leadership, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is actually another what we call that article that related to the climate change that we are actually what we call that researching with the researchers from our university. It is actually about the framework for managing climate change impact in Malaysian hotel industry. As we know, when we are talking about tourism industry, it is actually very prone or very affected by the climate or what we call that environmental changes. Okay, so that's why in this particular research or project, we are actually looking at the adaptation strategy that can be used by the island hotel in facing with all the changes. All right, next one, please. Okay, it is similar. This one is the adaptation strategy in the matter of focusing on the hotel management. Okay, in terms of the management to actually optimize the resources they own, particularly in terms of human capital, in order to face with the uncertainties. Because as we know, especially for Malaysia organization or companies, most of the companies are actually implementing very tight cost control, in which for the companies to plan for something that can incur costs in very short period of time, it is quite impossible. So the finding found that what actually companies did is they are actually optimizing the strengths, and also they are managing the weaknesses owned by their human capital in order to deal with that kind of situation. Okay, next please. Okay, now the current publication that is actually related to the environmental sustainability, we just currently produced and published this book in terms of adaptation strategy, in which what we call that, to give some recommendation in terms of the hospitality operators in facing with the uncertainties from the environment. Okay. Next, please. Okay, now this is the main focus of my sharing today. It is in terms of the missing linking pin of social sustainability. As I mentioned earlier, as compared to the economics and environmental, social sustainability is actually poorly understood. Okay, in which if we are referring to some of the article saying that social sustainability is actually the least explored element of sustainability, right? So this suggests that social sustainability is a research gap that having a good potential, not only for the researchers but also for maybe the students to look into, right? So next, please. Okay, now, how do actually we define social sustainability, right? So basically, social sustainability is actually the effort to create sustainable and meaningful places for people well-being. So that's why earlier I said about human development and human resource management, which is closely related to sustainability pillars, in which human resource management is not only about managing people, but it is related to the financial outcome and also environmental impact as well. Okay, so this can be seen from a few movements, okay, that has been done by academics such as Green Wave, like I mentioned earlier about the presenters from Indonesia that present about green human resource management. It is actually included under the Green Wave movement. All right, next please. Okay, these are some of the themes or some of the elements that we can consider when we are actually talking about social sustainability themes. All right, it is related to the basic needs. It is related to livelihoods. It is related to equity, human development, and also poverty reduction. If we can see from this example, okay, we can clearly relate this kind of themes with the sustainability, sustainable development goals in the next slide. Okay. So as we know, 2030 SDG agendas that is actually aimed by at the global level, it is actually including all these social sustainability themes. Next, please. Okay, this is what I'm talking about just now. Okay, the social sustainability themes is actually very closely related to SDG goals, right? Next. Okay, now, so why actually there is a lack of research in terms of social sustainability pillars? There are few what we call that factors which researchers relate the lack of study in social sustainability pillars. This is due to the first one is in terms of fragmented. Okay, in the sense that when we are exploring about social sustainability, it is something that is tangible. For example, human well-being. Maybe the well-being for one person is actually different with another person. So that's why it is very difficult to measure in terms of subjective elements or concept. Okay, the second factor is due to the complex. Okay, in which the issue about social sustainability is dynamic in nature. Okay, in which it differs from one situation, one country to another country, right? The third factor is due to the work, okay, multi-dimension, meaning that when we are actually focusing on social sustainability, it is actually what we call that related to sub-element and whatsoever. Okay, and lastly, why this social sustainability is still under research is because of the chaotic nature, which require flexibility, in which whenever researcher recommend one strategy or adaptation, maybe when the situation keep changing, the same adaptation strategy cannot be used anymore, although it involves the same sector. Okay, and even some researchers mention about difficulty in searching for benchmark practice. Okay, because we know that most of the researchers in the whole world keep searching for adaptation strategy, mitigation strategy, particularly when we are talking about climate change. However, sometimes one particular finding cannot be generalized, okay, from one context to another context. So that's why social sustainability requires flexibility in terms of the research process, in terms of the understanding of the underpinning theories and whatsoever. Okay, next please. Okay, now the potential of the current situation. We know, as I mentioned earlier, and I know everyone aware of COVID-19 pandemic. We see COVID-19 as what we call that negative, to give negative impact to the whole world. Okay, but some of the benefit, okay, some of the benefit or what we call that hikmah that we can see from this particular event is that there are angle or aspect that need consideration for all the societies. For example, okay, 97 million people are reported to fall into poverty level. As I said earlier, much of the businesses need to shutting down their operation. Most of the employees losing their jobs, they're losing their source of income and whatsoever. So this is very negatively impacted not only individual but also for the families. Okay, so consequently, this has increased income inequalities, and also some of the group in the society is actually left behind because of this situation. Okay, so this is what we call that the right circumstances in which, as a researcher, as an academic, we can see this as a potential research gap, not only for the academic development but also for the impact to the society. Right, next please. Okay, so my last slide. Okay, so how actually we can make sure that the research or the project can be tailored toward giving benefit to the society is in terms of understanding the social sustainability scale. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of the impact, we cannot generalize. One adaptation strategy maybe cannot be used by another context, by another society. So that's why some of the researchers, for example, GAS 2017, mentioned about focusing on the contact base. Okay, meaning that we can start from the sub-national, maybe in terms of the district, in terms of the states, and then we move to another level at the national level of investigation, and then only we come out hopefully the global adaptation that can be beneficial not only for the certain companies but for the overall societies in the world. Okay, so I guess this is my main ideas and topics that I would like to share for today. With that, I end my discussion with Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And I am very sorry for the trouble, for the technical issues during my presentation. Thank you.
Associate Professor in the Accounting Department. He gained his doctoral degree in Public Administration from University of Albany, New York. He was a former director of Center for Economic Business and Entrepreneurship Development in the Department of Economics in University of Muhammadiyah, Malang. He has published hundreds of articles in international journals, book chapters, proceedings, and conference papers. He was also an awardee of Fulbright Presidential Scholarship. Also, in 2018, he received an award with first place as lecturer with national achievement in social humanities. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Djoko Sayogo, Ph.D. The floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I cannot see the PowerPoint presentation from back here, so I will just move out right here. Good evening. How are you guys doing? Seems like a long day to you guys. Huh? Okay, I will try to make it brief because I'm the last presenter, so that, I don't want to take much more of your time. Could you please show me the slide, if it is possible? All right. So, I will present something a little bit different. Have you guys heard a story about Snake Professor? Have you? No? Do you want me to tell you the story about Snake Professor? All right, so there is this expert, right? He is an expert about snake, right? And one day, so one day, he was invited to give a keynote speech in a conference. All right, so he thought he will give a keynote speech about snake because he's an expert in snake. So he just grabbed his bag, went to the conference, and then once he arrived at the conference venue, he see the poster, and he just realized that's a conference about elephant, not snake. Right? He freaked out. He doesn't know anything about elephant. He only knows about snake. So do you know what the professors do? So he go to the podium, he faced the audience, and he said that, you know elephant? Elephant is a big animal with a large flappy ear and a long trunk like a snake. And snake is, and then he explained about snake. So I will do something like that, a little bit. You got the joke? All right, so I will talk about my research related to data innovation for better informed consumption decision. What it has anything to do with environmental issues then, right? Why I have to discuss about data innovation for better informed consumption decision in a conference with a team about environmental issues. So studies pointed out, next please. Okay, studies pointed out that consumer behavior is actually driving and affect the environment. So if consumer only buy from a company that is environmentally friendly, then it will create a pressure for other company, so the other company will do the same. If all companies are doing the same and being environmental friendly, then it will achieve the purpose of sustainable development. So what it has anything to do with better informed consumer buying choices? Imagine yourself going to the supermarket. Right? You go to the supermarket and you see this whole shelf with a lot of product. And each product have different supplier, have different producer, and you don't know which of those products are produced by the company who actually environmentally friendly. You have no way of knowing that, because all you know is the information in the product packaging. Okay. You didn't know anything aside from the packaging of the product. Right? So thinking about that, actually this research was initiated when we go to the supermarket and we try to buy coffee. And when we try to buy coffee, we found out that a lot of coffee with different certification and different information. And we just don't know which one to choose. Which one of this company who sells the coffee is actually the company who have a good behavior in preserving the environment. So based on that, next please. We try to, next please. Okay. We try to create some research to help the consumer. But the question is, why bother? Why bother? Because there is an issue that's called greenwashing. What is greenwashing? Greenwashing is a company who pretend to be green, but they only actually try to promote the marketing of the product. So they're not actually green, they're just selling green product, because selling green product means higher profit margin. Okay. According to Terra Choice, the offering, the supply of green product is increasing, but 95% of the product that was fall under the category of green is actually greenwashing. Certification exists to curb that behavior, but not all product that is certified is free of greenwashing. Next, please. So let me give you an example. One certification, halal certification, because I think you all know about halal certification. The problem is, there are so many halal certification out there. Okay? And there are cases of halal certification misuse. So now it depends on the customer to actually decide whether the product that they will buy is actually reflecting the true halal certification. As you can see there, somebody sells beer with halal logo. Somebody sells pork with halal logo. If we don't understand, if we only know the information from the packaging of the product, and we didn't know much more information except from the packaging, then there is an information asymmetry in the market, because customers have less information than producer. Whenever there is information asymmetry, there is someone that will be at a disadvantages, right? So building from that, next please. Okay. We thought about some solution. So actually the solution is on the data. The problem is that consumer doesn't have enough information. But providing transparency to the consumer without just providing information to the consumer, it will create information overload. If we give you more information and give you more information, give you more information, you will experience an information overload. So what we do is, we try to create an information architecture. Okay? We try to combine between the development in information and communication technology and the openness of data and transparency in the private sector. We argue if we combine between, if we integrate between different heterogeneous data using interoperable data architecture based on semantic technology application, then the consumer will have trusted information specifically for their need. If consumers have trusted information specifically to their need, then consumer will make a better choices. Okay? If consumers have better choices, then information in the market will be perfect. We will experience again something that has been told to us when we were kids. Remember when we studied about Islam as a religion? My teacher told me that Nabi Muhammad SAW, when he went to trade, he always mentioned that this product is come from here, the ingredient is like this, So it's very transparent, meaning that the information from the buyer is similar with the information from the seller. It's create a perfect information. So we are hoping by creating interoperable data architecture that bridging the connection between the consumer and the supplier, we will create a perfect information in the market. Next. Okay. So to be able to do that, we need two things at least. First, we need the data architecture. Okay. We need the architecture to support the integration of data. And second, we need to know what would incentivize company to open their data. Because if we build the architecture, but the company did not disclose their data, then the architecture will be useless. Okay. Next. For that reason, we have to question, how is the data architecture necessary to do that? And second is, what would incentivize the company to disclose their data? Next. This is the boring theory. I will not talk about theory. If you're interested about this kind of theory, you can search it in the Scholar. Next. So I will use two cases. Right? Both based on our research, use two cases. First is the case of green button, and the second is case for I choose. Next. Next, please. Okay. So what is green button? Okay. Green button, I don't know if you can see it clearly, but green button is actually an effort in the US to provide more information to the consumer, about their energy usage. So if consumer receive information about energy usage, then they could analyze this information and create a strategy for energy efficiency that tailor or specific to their own need, not general energy efficiency propagated by the government, but energy efficiency strategy individually matched with their need. What they do is that utility company is actually capturing data from the meter, the smart meter. The data is preserved and saved in the energy utility company database. So green button is a data standard, a data architecture to help consumer extracting the data, extracting the standardized data. Because consumer now could extract the standardized data, then they could use the data to create a customized strategy for more efficient energy consumption. Okay. So that's the first architecture, creating a data standard. Second, next please. Second is something called I choose. This is something that I personally involve. Right? So what we do in I choose is that if customer only have information based on the product packaging, then to help consumer understand whether the information is true or not, we will provide a way for the consumer to trace back the information across the supply chain. Presumably, if the information in the product is true, then the information in the retailer will be true. Information in the distributor will be true. Information in the importer will be true. Information in the producer will be true. But there is a technical difficulty in doing that because retailer, distributor, importer, producer each have different databases. They store information differently. They have different format in storing the data. And that's create an issue because when I try to trace back the information to the retailer and then move back to the distributor, we cannot do that because the information is not the same. Retailer might, say something like stock, but distributor might use something like inventory. So when you try to match it, to trace it back and match it, they will regard this as two different things because stock is different with inventory, although it is the same. Right? So what we can do is, next. what we can do is we will create a special patch. Create a special patch based on all compliant ontology. This special patch will bridge between the database and the cloud. So when we try to extract the data that we are extracted will go through this additional layer. So the extracted data will be standardized. Because the extracted data is standardized, then this data will be traceable along the supply chain. All right, so that's the architecture. That's what we trying and have been developed and still trying to perfect. All right. So this is the first issue. Next. The second issue is how do we incentivize the organization, the company, to open their data? We found 4 rationale for the company to open the data. Okay. The first is economic rationale. Economic rationale consists of 5 different items. The first one is there has been changes in market structure and intensity of competition. The competition become more fierce. The rivalry between companies is more intense. So companies have to have a new edges to be competitive. One of the edges to be competitive is by using transparency. By providing more information to the consumer will assume that this company is different than other companies. Because they assume this company is different than other company, they have competitive advantages. And, black please, not yet finished. The third one is brand reputation damage. The company understands how expensive it is to fix brand reputation damage and how easy it is nowadays for a consumer to create something to affect the reputation of the company. You just have to make something in your Twitter account, and if it goes viral, then it will affect the company. Right? So the cost of maintaining brand reputation for the company is higher, which means it gives incentive for the company to disclose more information. The cost of disclosure. Disclosing information is cheaper every day. In the old days, in the 90s, if the company wants to disclose information, they have to create a website, which is expensive because they may have to maintain the website. Now, if the company wants to disclose information, they can use Twitter, they can use any other social media, which is a lot cheaper than maintaining a website. And the last one is the emerging of mission-driven organization. Currently, there are so many mission-driven organizations which provide the consumer with a tool to voice their dissatisfaction. So this 5 is the economics rationale. Next. The second one is the regulation and policy or coercive power. There has been many policy now enacted by the government worldwide to support public-private collaboration. Because policy exists to support public-private collaboration, it provides incentive for the company to disclose the data. The second one is the power of bully pulpit. Bully pulpit is a term coined by the President of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt. He mentioned that his position in the White House gave him advantages, gave him platform to convey his agenda easily. Now, the power of bully pulpit is everywhere. You don't have to be a president of the United States. There are so many influencers. There are so many social media celebrity or whatever, something like that, that could serve as a power of bully pulpit. So it creates more pressure, social pressure for the company to become more transparent to the consumer. And the third one is the pull and push policy. Government is actually a significant institutional buyer. Remember, in the second paragraph, I said that if consumer only buy in a company that is environmentally friendly, then other company will follow through. government actually a really significant institutional power. If government only buy from the company that is environmentally friendly, it will create a tremendous pressure. It will create high pressure. I'm not talking about the corruption, etc. This is just, ideal situation. The fourth one is compelling information policy in terms of safety access and privacy policy to protect the privacy and economic confidentiality. Next, the third rationale is technology incentive. There is more way to getting data due to the current technology. We have the emergence of Internet of Things, IoTs. We have the emergence of big data, cloud computing. So saving data is cheaper, generating data is easier, etc. And it all create an incentive for the company to open their data. And the fourth, next one please. The fourth rationale is social media and mimetic power. So because of the social media and disruptive technology, we have increased social pressure and reputation risk for the company. It used to be, if you want to contact a company, it will take a long time, it's really difficult. But nowadays, using social media, you can directly communicate with someone in the company. You can Google Starbucks, and then you make a comment in their Twitter, then you will directly talk to the company. It not used to be like that. It used to be very difficult. So social media strengthen consumer activism. Because social media strengthen consumer activism, it increase and ease how you can publicize your grievance. The customer could easily publish their grievance, their complaint, their dissatisfaction, etc. So it is increased value of information for the consumer. All right, so for the concluding remark, I was happy when we talk about concluding remark because suddenly you seem energized. It was concluding, then it will be end soon. All right, for concluding remark, we have three things. First is that smart disclosure, disclosing data smartly, actually could motivate organization or company to satisfy social pressure, including the need for environmental friendly activities. An economic rationale is actually mediated by institutional conditions so that government have significant role to introduce information fairness in the market. So if we combine the existing technology with full information product pricing and disclosing data smartly, we could actually potentially introduce perfect information in the market and helping consumer making better purchasing choices and decisions. All right, I think that's all that I can share for today. Thank you so much for your attention. I look forward for your input and constructive comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Sayogo, for your presentations. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the final session of our today's plenary session. This is the Q&A session. I would like to read the question from Zoom. But before that, if you have questions, please directly raise your hand and go to the center to talk to the microphone. Questions? Yes, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon all. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Shalmi Syamul Rahman with study number 2020-414, and I am from study program management, the Faculty of Economics and Business. I want to ask Ms. Sulistyaningsih how the institutional fit model to improve our sustainable waterside management in Indonesia. Thank you.
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
How the institutional fits model to improve your sustainable watershed management in Indonesia?
How to improve, sorry. Can you slow down a little bit?
How the institutional fits model improve or sustainable watershed management in Indonesia?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Another question? Yes, please.
Okay, thank you so much for giving me this chance. I am a guest. So, question is for the first speaker. So, you mentioned important things about the issues of environmental issues. So, what is the solution of this issue? Yeah, what is the solution of this issue? Because you mentioned the reasons of this issue and the type of this issue, but you didn't mention how we can solve it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dr. Tri, do you want to answer the questions? Or yes, two questions. One question? Okay, sure.
My name is T.A.F from the Department of Environment Economics. My question is toward Andoh. I want to know how do Ghana implement the red flows strategies, and if there are any case studies, I would like to know. Okay.
It's finished?
I mean, I want to know how Ghana implement the red flows strategies. And if there are any case studies, I want to know a case study about the strategies, how they implement it.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and the last question is from Zoom. I will read it. This is from Harlino Chris. The question it's for Dr. Nik. Okay, the research is related to strategic management, but it is about the implementation of sustainability in financial management. Various strategies are used to increase the value of the company, but so far it is too pragmatic. What if there is a concept of integration through the synthesis of theories such as RBT and bottom line theory to combine a concept of investment in human capital, accompanied by an increase in environmental performance, which is expected to be able to improve company performance and company value in a sustainable manner? Is it possible that this combination of human capital investment simultaneously will also be able to create an existence for improving environmental performance? And what can you suggest related to this idea, especially in Indonesia? That was the question for Dr. Nik Hazimah. And Dr. Tri, you ready to answer the questions?
Okay, I'm first. Okay. Terima kasih. Thank you for your for my title about the institution fit. We have reason about why we need or choose the institutional fit, because the institutional fit can explain how government have related with local government and the other stakeholder. And if you ask about how me to implemented the institutional fit. We have three categories about the institutional fit. First, the institutional fit means not just the institution like organization or building, but it is about the values of the institution. I mean, when we have Indonesia have to make a sustainable governance, especially to manage watershed management, it is possible if we have make the institutional fit is strong. Because if the one of the stakeholder behind the institutional don't make the good implemented, so it is, I mean, it can't to do it. In my experience or my research, we make the institutional fit or implemented them with the model, and we make the focus group discussion how to stakeholder to mix watershed brantas to do and make the water quality and management. So here we make start from planning, organizing, actuating, controlling for mechanism of watershed management to make the sustainable watershed. Like this, maybe enough? Okay.
Yeah, is it enough? Yeah, that's clear? Okay, thank you. And the second? The first question? Sudah.
Oh, solution. Yes, I'm sorry. I forget to answer the second question. How to make a solution watershed management? Like I asked before, that we have three models, but I choose one is the institutional fit. But we can make the institutional model and others model. There is the participation for public to make contribute for governments how to mix governments regulation. In the fact, there are many gap or deviation before the governments or central government with the local governments. So in the practically we have the conflict about how to make the watershed management. Like my research, many regulation is not related with the public and central government and local government. So the solution, the corporate or collaboration between all of stakeholders to make effective management, watershed management must be done. I mean like this. And in the last, we have conclusion, like Pak Djoko said, the TIC or Technology Informatic TIC, Technology Information TIC, yeah, communication. I mean, communication is the now that is must be should to make the solve the problem with big data or with TIC like this. Terima kasih. Thank you very much.
Okay, for the next question, For Dr. Andoh, unfortunately, Dr. Andoh is not with us. So I will make sure that the committee will address your question directly to Dr. Andoh. And for Dr. Nik Hazimah, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, you ready to answer the question?
Yeah, can you repeat again the question, please?
Yeah, the question is in the chat box. So, what if there is a concept of integration through the synthesis of the theories such as RBT and bottom line theory to combine a concept of investment in human capital accompanied by an increase in environmental performance, which is expected to be able to improve company performance and company value in a sustainable manner? Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Very difficult question to answer. Okay, so I believe, if I correct me if I am wrong. So I believe the main question about the integration of the strategy in terms of strategic management. Okay, in terms of integrating the theory. Okay, for human capital and also to achieve the financial outcomes. Okay, I guess, I hope that is the question. So basically, if we are looking at the broader view of the situation, in terms of the real situation as well as in the academic, what we call that, field. So basically, the lack of adaptation is found at the institutional level. Okay, meaning that, for example, when we are talking about COVID-19 pandemic in particular, we know that when COVID-19 happened, okay, most of the countries, most of the government are taking so much effort, okay, in terms of adaptation, in terms of trying to ease the impact to the people. So basically, research, if I'm not mistaken, even international level organization also claim that what we need is the workplace action. Okay, a workplace action that is closely related to the individual employees as part of the society. So, realizing that kind of research gap, me personally, I believe that individual theory is most relevant in that kind of situation. Okay, for example, if we are talking about AMO theory, ability, motivation, and also opportunity, we can actually explore or investigate the situation at the individual level. Because at the end of the day, individual employee will influence the organizational performance or organizational outcomes. Okay, so in terms of adaptation, it needs to be started from individual level. Okay, in which we are actually trying to get mutual outcome, which benefited organization as an employer and also employee as an individual. Okay, so my suggestion, my recommendation would be, if we are looking for integration of strategy, it is best if we begin at the individual level at this stage, because we know that there are many efforts that has been done. What we can do at this stage is to support the existing effort in which to optimize the outcomes, okay, which can benefit many entities, okay, in this kind of situation. I guess that is my answer.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Nik. I'm really impressed with your presentation and also your papers. I will definitely take a look at it. And ladies and gentlemen, I think that was our plenary sessions for today. Thank you very much for the participants, distinguished guests, and for the honorable speakers. I'm really sorry that I cannot address all the questions because we have a limited time. Thank you very much, and back to the Master of Ceremony. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Happy and all of the speakers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the speakers are already done with their awesome learning materials, and so do the agenda. But before we end today's agenda, I would like to say thank you very much for all of your kindness and participation in this conference. See you again in another moment. Hope this agenda can recharge our knowledge and also give us good impact in many aspects. Once again, see you and good afternoon. See you later. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.